Me?
Yes, I heard you for a second. Let's talk for a second just to get it like going. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you in your Zabar's cup.
Yay!
Okay.
Your
Okay.
hair looks great, by the way.
Really? Thank you. I have this like allergy attack happening and
Oh,
like, no one has to see what I look like on this, right? Because we're just gonna do the
no,
sound.
I mean, well, this is gonna go on my YouTube channel, which is private, so that I can then export the video to make it an audio podcast, so no one will see this. No,
Good. So
you
I'll
look.
just like thank you. I'll just sniffle then secretly. I guess not so secretly now that I've let everybody know.
No, we're definitely podcasting.
I'm also having red
Um,
wine. I don't know what you're doing, but we're supposed to be having white wine.
oh, I'm actually drinking tea because
Oh,
I don't have any wine.
oh, see, at least I tried. I got halfway there.
So one thing I'm having trouble with is the sound cuts out on your end a lot. I don't know if it's like a mic issue or
Well, I don't have a mic. I'm
no, but
just
your computer has a mic. That's
yeah,
how I'm hearing.
yes. But I don't know if it's an. I don't know how to fix an issue with it. How bad is it? I can't hear it.
Okay, now I'm getting it.
Okay.
I think I might be cutting you off, and that might be part of it. So I'll try to do that less. This is getting better. Like when I first could see you, like it felt really laggy, but I think it's fine now.
Okay, good. I can now see why I need to get a microphone for the next one because you sound really good.
Oh, good. I think this is like a really shitty microphone. I'm just using mine because like I feel like we have to like yeah. So get a microphone. They're great.
It's obvious it's necessary.
So are you ready to actually start the podcast?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I have notes that I took, and I just rewatched both
Ooh.
the two both.
I have notes. I rewatched both episodes and took notes on them.
I did.
Um,
Notes are
so
really, but I think it's
I'm
great.
gonna do a little intro
Yeah.
and then we're gonna like really start.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Hi there, this is Clear Eyes, Full Hearts Can't Even, a podcast about the TV show Friday Night Lights. I'm Sarah Clark, and I am a newbie to Friday Night Lights, and I know nothing about football, but I am from a small town in the South, so I have that going for me. And I'm here with Sabrina, who is a big fan of the show, and I thought she was like a huge football expert, but she now tells me that she doesn't know that much about football and is just a Patriots fan.
I'm
But
not an expert. Hi, I'm Sabrina. I am a big Friday Night Lights fan. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I probably know more than Sarah. Um, and I can generally follow along when I watch a game, but I also like the Patriots. So like, but anyway, want to continue the intro?
no, that was our intro. That was a great intro. I think it was great. So
Because
now
I
we're going to talk about the pilot
watching,
episode.
yeah. So I think that one thing I was just thinking that I would like you to do is talk about pilots because I know you have a lot of thoughts about
Oh.
that I find really interesting, and then I can say a couple of things that I think about this pilot.
Well, yeah. So first of all, I'll just start sort of by saying, like, okay, so we're going to talk about this is the first episode of our podcast, and we're going to talk about the first episode of the show. So yeah, so this is the pilot.
Yeah,
And yeah, I my first note actually kind of does speak to like what pilots are about. So this pilot episode of the show is framed around the idea of media coverage of the like season opener of a high school football team. And on the one hand, I think it makes a really nice way to introduce all the characters, which you have to do when you make a pilot. And I think it's like a nice sort of like intro to the show. And I can imagine it reading really nicely, like if you're a studio executive or something. But what's that noise?
it's my cat. He's like tearing something apart.
Oh, Serena has cats. They're insane apparently, and they're going to be guests on our podcast
Yeah,
sometime.
I'm sure they will
They're
be.
huge fans of the show.
Yeah,
But yeah, so the show
fans of
uses
like
this.
me not paying attention to them, so like that's yeah.
Yeah, so I was really interested in like the choice to make this like framing device of the media because it's a small town in Texas, and I know like obviously football's a really big deal in Texas, but like I'm from a small town in the South, and my hometown had like 2 AM radio stations and a cable access channel. There was no like media coverage of anything going on in my town ever. Like there was a serial killer in my town, and like the media did not show up.
I
So
knew
what do you think?
Serial killer in your town because I saw a true crime show about it, and I was like, that is crazy. Crazy. And like a whole other podcast, maybe. I don't know. But like, yeah, that's really, so nothing happened with that. That's really.
I mean, they caught the guy. And again, like, there's just, when you're from a small town, like very little, this whole thing where like, oh, like ESPN is there interviewing all these teenage football players. Like, that just doesn't happen. And I mean, it's a TV show, so whatever. And it's a pilot episode of a TV show. And I thought it was a pretty smart way of framing the pilot and introducing everyone. But as someone kind of from there, I thought it was weird. What did you think about that? What do you think about this as a pilot and how it introduces all the various?
I think it's interesting because I guess one of the things that I thought, you know, not knowing as much about pilots and like the whole TV business as you do, like one of the things that I at least would usually notice is like the pilot has some like driving incident. Like I've been watching a lot of Parenthood, and so like Parenthood, like the pilot is when like Sarah Berman comes home to like live with her parents because she's like run out of money in Fresno. So that's kind of like what drives a lot of the action there. But here it's like, I guess like the driving action that like starts this whole series off is like Jason Street gets paralyzed, and then it's about Matt Saracen. But the show doesn't end up really being about him. So it's like you kind of, the first 2 episodes are kind of different than the rest of the show because they're a lot about how Jason Street is this really great player and like the media setup for that and like his circle of friends and like where he is in the pecking order. But that changes entirely at the end of the first episode when he gets injured, and then the show takes like this whole nother turn. So like usually on a pilot it sets up sort of like this person's like a new situation for like a main character and the conflicts they go through, but in this case it's like it's like the first 2 episodes are sort of like about Jason Street, and then the rest of the show like really isn't. So I think that's kind of,
one thing I thought was interesting, and I didn't notice it the first time I watched the pilot, but I did notice it when I rewatched it to take notes for our podcast, is that the pilot almost like, it shows us so many different characters and so many different people and like different things going on in the town and with football players and with people who are peripheral to the whole football scene in the town, that like I was wondering whether they weren't sure who the main characters were going to be, or like if they wrote and shot the pilot with the eye towards like the network sort of saying like, oh, we like this Jason Street kid, let's make him, he's obviously the main character of the show, or like, oh, you know, Adrian Palicki's character, like Tess the best, like this is really a show about her, like, or like so spoiler alert, huge fan of Smash, totally team Smash, I love Smash, I kind of do want this to be the Smash show, and watching the pilot, like you see so much of him that it really does seem like, or Riggins too, who I hate Riggins, but I understand people probably like Riggins. I might like Riggins more in the future. I had a feeling that you would like Riggins, actually.
What? You had a feeling I would?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's such a sad sack, and I just was like, Sabrina's gonna feel for this guy.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I do. I really do. I mean, I don't know. I don't like Jason Street. I thought that's an interesting observation because I feel like when I was taking notes and watching it, I was kind of like, the Jason Street Lila thing is so boring and cheesy that like I was like I didn't know that they were going to destroy that. Like I felt like watching it, you're just like, you know, they're gonna blow this up. Like there's no way these people can make a TV show happen. Like they're so boring together. Like they have some conflict or something.
So would you like to go through, actually a lot of the notes I took were like my thoughts about different characters, or like whether I like them or not, or like what their point in the show is to me or whatever. So you want to go through and talk about like, I'll just say a character and we can talk about like our thoughts about this character. And again, keep in mind the many, many listeners that we have listening to this who are anxiously awaiting our opinions of characters. I have seen 3 episodes of Friday Night Lights. Sabrina, I'm assuming, has seen the whole series, or at least like way more of the show.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna keep my comments to what we've seen so far, and who we've seen so far. But I'm gonna keep my comments to who we've seen so far.
So I'm gonna start. Matt Saracen. Thoughts about Matt Saracen?
Your thoughts or my thoughts first?
Well, no. Well, you can say your thoughts first. We can trade off.
Okay. I like him a lot. I don't feel like we've seen that much of like what's interesting about him yet. Like he's kind of like the typical like backup quarterback, deer in the headlights kind of guy. We don't know that much about him yet in the first episode, except that he's like kind of like a good guy and he lives with his grandma.
But are you like, oh, like you're just like so good. You're so good at everything. You're so perfect. Are you like, oh my God, it's Saracen? Because that's how I feel. Like the letter. I'm like, every time he comes on screen, I just like my heart melts. So
no, he's adorable. But like, there's a lot to him that you don't know yet, I guess. Like, so it's like, yeah, like it's not like darkness, but it's just kind of like, I don't know what.
He's a little bit more.
Yeah, he's very different than Jason Street. Has like a different life and like a different background, different interests. Like he's got like, I don't know. He's got like a little bit more. Like he definitely has more problems. That you can tell there's this grandma, you know, and takes care of her, and that's weird for like a 15-year-old guy. But like, one of the things I noticed about Matt Saracen that I never thought about before, and I guess I never wanted to admit, was that like I think his grandma is really creepy. Like I was watching this episode, he is so creepy, and then when I was watching it, I was trying to like put it together why, and I was like, she's kind of looks like she was like born 72, and yet seems like weirdly young to be having as many like mental problems as she seems to have. I don't know. She's just really creepy.
I definitely feel like, and this is a bit of a spoiler for like further episodes than we're going to talk about in this episode, because it didn't really come up until a little later, but like they can't really decide at this point in the show whether she's just an old lady who's like kind of clueless because she's an old lady and she's on a lot of medications and she's old, or whether she like has problems. Yeah. Because like watching the pilot, I thought like, okay, first of all, I thought he lived with his grandma for like sketch reasons. I think I was confusing this with like 90210, where like Andrea, the newspaper editor, has to like have a fake address so she can go to the right school or whatever. But like, so I thought it was like he didn't have parents, or that like his like he was a foster child, or like an orphan, or like he was bad or something. But I don't think any of that's actually the case, or if it is, we haven't learned about it. But like, yeah, like in this episode, the grandma just seems old and really sweet and really Southern. But later, seems like she has dementia or something.
Yeah, I mean, that is not quite revealed yet. Like, she definitely has some kind of dementia, but it's not clear what it is. Like, she definitely, like, has some stuff going on, but, like, it's supposed to be because she's old, but she doesn't seem old enough. I don't know, just something about, maybe it's, like, the way that she's played. Like, something about it just really weird and off about her. I don't think
I think the thing about her being old enough or whatever, I think, so my mom had me when she was like 21 or something, 22 maybe. My grandmother had my mother, I don't know exactly how old she was, but like my grandmother was very young like my mom's mom was very young throughout my whole childhood and adolescence, and now she's in her like late 70s, early 80s, but, excuse me, but yeah, so like it doesn't seem that weird that his grandma would be like maybe like 58 or 62 or something, because like maybe we don't know anything about his mom. Like maybe his mom was 15 when he was born, and like it's the South, and like people have kids young and shit. Yeah. But like he seems young to have all of these, whatever her problem is.
That's not, she's not young to be a grandma, but she's young. She seems young. Either like the actress is young and didn't age her, or like everybody who made the show was like, that seems old, but she looks old. But like, I was just thinking about like Livia Soprano, who's like this just, I don't know, totally different grandma person, I guess. But like, just like,
they have similarities.
Yeah, like when she starts getting dementia, like you're just like, wow, this lady is old, and this is a big problem, you know, like. But with with Matt Saracen's grandma, it's like she's got dementia, but it's like kind of cute, and she just kind of does it sometimes. But other times she's just kind of like there to be watching to him.
I have a bigger problem with that stuff of like her, at least where we are in the series, like in episode 1, her whatever is her deal, like isn't presented as like a problem. It's presented as like she's just this like cute old Southern lady who's like really clueless and like probably out of her depth, like raising a teenager.
Yeah, and he's kind of
has a whole lot mentally going on.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, she doesn't really like Landry.
Who is, by the way, the next person on my list of characters, and we'll talk about them. I'm gonna start. Why is this dude on this show? Like, I don't understand what his point is, and I don't have I kind of don't like him that much as a character, but like really, I don't like him because he seems like he's only on the show to give Matt Saracen someone to talk to. Well, like I don't. He seems like a sidekick, and I don't get it.
He is a sidekick for now. He gives Matt. He's like the kind of guy. So it's like Jason Street is the kind of guy who has like Tim Riggins as a friend. Like Matt Saracen is the kind of guy who has like Landry as a friend. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of like Landry's like a nerd. Yeah. You know, it's like the QB1 is that kind of guy. Yeah. So it's Texas. Like he's a nerd. You know, he wants to start like a band. Like I don't know. My impression is that like there just aren't a lot of guys like that in that high school. Like Matt Saracen's friends with him. It's like kind of like they're both like outsiders and kind of like.
He is a dweeb, and like my take on him is he's more of like a burnout metalhead who's like probably actually I think it might be in the next episode, and maybe we'll talk about this in our next podcast. But there's a scene where like no, it is in this one where they're hanging out. And Matt's like practicing throwing goals, which is a foreshadowing for the end of the episode where he like gets this amazing huge field. Is that a field goal? Field goal? What is it when you throw the ball through the thingy?
Oh, well, you don't throw. You kick a field goal.
Sorry, well, the thing where he threw the ball at the end of the episode. What is that?
That was a Hail Mary pass for the touchdown.
Wait, say that again. Cut out a little bit.
Hail Mary pass. Because they do that a lot on the show. It's like a Hail Mary pass is like when they throw all the way down the field and it's like seconds left. It's like when they're at the 20, the 10. Like that's a like crazy thing that never happens, but it happens.
So he's throwing a pass. He's not throwing it through the goalpost.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to that scene. There's that scene where he's like practicing his throwing or whatever, and Landry is talking to him, and Landry's like saying this like really boring chump kind of bullshit stuff that like isn't interesting really at all about like starting a Christian rock band or something, and that's why I thought that Landry was like a metalhead burnout. And the grandma comes out and says you need to get new friends, and so I thought that Landry was not like a nerdy dweeb misfit, but that he was like the wrong crowd or something,
That's
or like
so
potentially.
Funny. No, he's just
a good kid.
She just wants him to be. She wants him to get new friends because she wants him to be in like the in group and like be the football guy. And Landry's just kind of like a nerd who like doesn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah, he's like not going anywhere.
Yeah, like nobody even wants like Landry around. Like the whole show, it's like not even a spoiler. It's like everyone's like Landry's here. Like it's kind of like.
I feel the same way. Like I was a nerd in high school, and I knew people like that, which is probably why a lot of my reactions to the show have to do with the fact that I'm from a small town in the South and knew people who were like all of these people. But my first reaction to Landry is like, why is this kid on this show? Like, get him away. Like, what is he doing here? Please make him go and not be on the show anymore.
Fascinated to see as this progresses, as it must now. Like as we watch more of this, what you think, because there's so much more that happens with Landry. But as anybody who's seen the whole show and knows about season 2 will tell you. But yeah, okay, so that's what you think of Landry. Who's next?
Okay. On my list, Riggins. What do you think about Riggins?
Love Riggins. Love him. He's the one who says that famous line, like, good friends live in large in Texas. That's like, he's kind of like a good old boy, got a bad background, doing the best he can, alcoholic, naturally gifted.
Well, is he doing the best he can? I think that's my main, like, general
I feel like that would be like a whole podcast in
Like
itself.
he's doing the worst that he can. He seems like he's really not trying at all, and you have all these other
That's
kids.
what I mean. That's the best he can. That's the best he can. You know what I mean? He's like 45, like in
an 18-year-old body. Yeah. I think
he doesn't realize like what he's got to. He hasn't seen like what he thinks he's seen a lot, but he has. You know what I mean? But he hasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's not. I mean, his general posturing sort of attitude. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, he's a teenager. My issue. And by the way, this is not as a, like, whether he's a well-written character or whatever. Like, this is me just like raw emoting my opinions of like TV show.
Yeah.
What bugs me about him and why I'm Team Smash and not Team Riggins is, which I've decided are going to be the hashtags of our show, and all of our copious audience members are going to weigh in.
Everyone's going to be Smash. Right now.
I'm Team Smash. Okay, get over it, everybody. Here's the thing. I think. Okay, on the one hand, he clearly doesn't have parents, and his brother's not a super good influence on him, despite the fact that his brother's in every scene the brother's in, he's like yelling at him to like go to school or go to practice or like not drink or whatever. Like, not a whole lot is actually expected of Riggins. It's like, go to football practice. Don't actually be drunk when you're at football practice. Don't beat people up at the like Peach Pit or whatever the restaurant's called that they hang out at.
Well, it's Peach Pit. I think that's probably.
Yeah, and I have a few in my notes. I have a few like other shows, like Adrian Palicki's character, like I referred to as Mockingbird several times.
I love her.
Yeah, actually, she's next, sort of semi next on my list, or she can be next on my list.
Yeah, Riggins. I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised Riggins is so early on your list because there's so much to say about him. But like.
Oh, this is pretty much an order of like how the characters appear.
Yeah. Oh.
In this,
yeah.
Like when someone came on screen, I just made a little note. Like, what do we think about this person?
That's a good strategy. He doesn't have to. He's really good. My impression of him is like he's really good. But he's kind of like jaded. But he doesn't really know. He hasn't really been tested in life yet. So he thinks like kind of like a lot of teenagers. So he thinks he knows a lot, but he doesn't. But he's really good at. He's a really good. Player, and so like, and he's got like, you know, Jason, and they like have their sort of thing down, and he doesn't, you know, the reason that he has to, it's just like Tim just show up is that he's like that good, like he doesn't have to work at it, he's just naturally really good.
Yeah, I hear that, and I also like, I do think that like if you like, especially with teenagers, if you're naturally very gifted at something, a lot of the time you take it for granted, and then you do like feel like you have the ability to phone it in, or like I remember like stuff I did in high school, like when I was like a teen genius or whatever, like I just like wouldn't bother to study, whereas like if I had studied for 10 minutes, I could have gotten an A+ of a B+ or whatever. Like it's like if you're very gifted, suddenly you don't even want to bother to like go to practice or like keep your behavior somewhat in check, or like not do shit that like all teenagers who know you're not supposed to do, like go to school drunk, like
right.
So I get that. It's like he's like the traumatized gifted kid or whatever.
That's exactly what he is. Yeah, he's definitely got like demons, and he takes them way too seriously. Maybe he should, you know. He's like, I don't know. It's like he's kind of like, you know, he's like the Pacey kind of. I don't know. He's like
I'm glad that we have really opposite feelings about this, because the first few episodes I'm like, Riggins can fuck off. Smash fave Sprouse.
Yeah, like right now he's like the Pacey to Jason Street's Dawson, but then like they lose Dawson, so it's like what happens if it's just like Pacey's show? You know, it's like what happens?
Yeah.
You're like that.
I kind of hated Pacey.
You like Dawson? Because who knows like that guy?
I didn't like Dawson that much either. In fact, my main failure to get buy-in on Dawson's Creek as a teenager was that I kind of hated like everyone on that show.
Even Jen? Did you hate Jen?
I said no. I hate like all characters on Dawson. That's why I never really got into that, because I just hate all of them.
They were pretty terrible. I liked Pacey, and I liked Jen.
Who's Jed?
Jen.
Oh, Jen. Yes.
Yeah.
But is she?
Sorry, like,
Wait. Jen
Duffy.
is Michelle Williams' character, right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like her till later. She was kind of like really. Anyway, that's a different podcast.
Yeah, different podcast. Our new podcast, just like Gilmore Girls has a million, Gilmore Guys has a bunch of different podcasts they're gonna start. We are, I guess, do the same thing, and someday we're gonna have Dawson Can't Even.
Dawson's fine. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so next person on my list, because again I went kind of in order of like when somebody had major screen time, Lila, and also Jason. As you said earlier, and this is where the character issue that we completely agree on. Lila and Jason are so fucking boring. So boring.
Yeah. I mean, we were probably very similarly like high school, oriented similarly in high school. Like those people were just boring anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, in my high school, like, everybody was really smart and like kind of interesting. So I kind of don't really totally relate to the like jocks are dumb, and everybody was like smart. The jocks were smart, the cheerleaders were smart, everybody was smart. And probably the same for you, but like, yeah. So I don't totally identify with the like, but there were kind of people who were like, I guess maybe it's more now. People are just kind of just boringly perfect. That's kind of how I saw them.
So on the one hand, like I did go to the kind of high school that had like dumb jocks and like dumb everyone, because like intelligence is not, and like book learning is not really like privileged in any way in Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana, everyone, so this whole Texas thing like really vibes with me. It's gonna be one of my many rants about how this show's really similar to where I grew up and the kind of town that I grew up in. But like, one thing that I love about the show, and that is something that I don't think I really respected as a teenager, but I do now, is a lot of, just like the show, a lot of the kids, there were some people like Lila and Jason where their lives just seemed really uncomplicated, but then on the other hand, like, yeah, like there was like the kid who was really talented but like had a really shitty family situation, or there was like the, you know, guy who was like the boring dumb jock on the football team, and then like his mom like had a terminal illness and like it changed everything in their family forever. Or like, and I'm not naming names or even really talking specifically about specific people, but like that's something that I kind of had a sense of as a teenager, like, oh, like, yeah, like I am nerdy and I am like into cool stuff and I have good taste in music or whatever, but there are kids like that I know who are popular and who are jocks, and maybe they're not as smart as me, but they have a lot of shit going on. And I like that the show talks about that.
Yeah, that.
I don't think it's a good. I just think it's a somewhat good example of what I mean.
Yeah, that whole high school thing. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like in high school, yeah, like I grew up pretty privileged. Like I don't, and there's things that get blocked out apparently, because there were definitely kids who were like bust in, and I remember them like hanging out in the hallway, and they just didn't seem like people I knew, but I didn't really think about it because I was busy, which is like very similar to the way that I still live my life. Like I think that, I don't know, like class issues in general, like I don't know. It's like
it's actually kind of interesting that you bring up class issues with when we're talking about Jason and Lila, because one of the things I noticed in the show is that, and I got the impression that Jason's family is pretty modest, and like they probably don't have money for things like your kid gets paralyzed playing football.
Yeah, but they're like good people.
But he has like an intact family. He's a mom and a dad. I get the sense that either his mom probably stays at home, or that like if she works, she like, you know, like is a secretary at a, you know, law firm or something. Like she just like they seem like pretty stable middle class people. Lila's family, as we see a little bit in this episode, and as we'll see more, is well off. And in fact, I have to say, despite the fact that I don't identify with Lila in terms of cheerleaderiness, because that was not me at all, Lila's home life is probably the most similar out of any of the characters to like, that's the kind of house I grew up in, and like that her dad is that's kind of how my dad dressed to go to work, and like, oh, like the whole like we're having a family dinner thing, like that's the kind of family I grew up in.
You had a family.
I had a family.
Yeah, family. Yeah, we didn't have family.
I didn't have like I stayed on the couch eating bottles of my own liquor with my girlfriend sleeping on top of me. Like that did not happen.
Oh. No, I mean I had. Yeah, I don't know how far I want to go into that right now, but we definitely didn't have family dinner, but everything else, yeah. So that's wait. So what else do I want to say about? I don't know. Jason and Lila are really boring. Jason is really intense. Like you get the idea that he's a good guy, I guess, but like he's also creepy. Maybe it's just because like I don't know, like kind of I don't remember when I saw the pilot, but like I just always knew he was like not long for this world in the current incarnation. So like um so like I guess I always kind of felt like he was like really weirdly creepy and kind of
Like he was an omen of some kind or something.
yeah. I mean, he kind of like I always has that personality, which is kind of which becomes interesting later on. Like even though he doesn't have that same like sort of like he loses a lot very quickly, but he still has this sort of like hyper optimism. And I guess that's kind of like part of what he and Lila share. It's like everything's gonna be fine, everything's great. Here's some other opportunities, like here's some other routes that I found, you know, like
Oh, we should probably establish now while we're talking about Jason Street and we're in the pilot episode of this, our how spoilery are we gonna get? Because obviously we're gonna have a huge audience of people who are watching the show along with us who've definitely never seen Saturday Night Live.
These are my thoughts. Like I feel like it's hard to not be like, well, this person's generally. I mean, whatever you think, but like
yeah.
But I don't think we should talk about plot points that go into the future. But like
we can say like this is generally how this person's personality plays out over the course of the
show. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's hard to talk about these people's personalities now without being like, okay, so this is. And that's the thing that's interesting about this pilot. Actually, I was thinking about it because how a lot of these people are is just generally how they are, and I feel like it's really interesting they nailed it in the pilot. Because like I was thinking about it versus Mad Men, where everybody kind of seems like they're like, I'm new to this job. Like everybody has this like feeling like it's like first day and they just filled out HR paperwork. Like John Hamm like seems really young and like uncomfortable, and he seems like not like sure what he's like. He holds his mouth really stiff in this way that he's kind of decided he's going to do, which he's totally abandons later on. And like I just think it's really interesting. It's like, you know, almost everyone, you know, when I watch the pilot, which I've watched that pilot 25 times, I'm sure, but like they just kind of seem like they're like, oh, this is my first day on this cool job. Like, let's see what happens. But on the show, it's like everybody is how they are. Like that's
one thing I love about this pilot, and it's interesting that you bring it up in comparison to other pilots, is while I have like some questions about sort of like choices that were made or whatever, one thing that I think this pilot nails is this seems like a real town with real people who've known each other for a long time, and like everyone's dynamic is already kind of, even Coach Taylor, who on the one hand he's new to being the head coach of this particular team, he's from the town, he used to coach this team way back in the day before leaving to take another job and coming back. Like everybody's dynamics are really established, and you have a sense that these people like went to nursery school together.
Yeah, it's really. I was thinking about that when I was watching it just now. It's like I think that's interesting for the whole spoiler thing. Like these people, like this is who they are. Like that's how they are the whole time. Like, they are who they are.
Like Lila and Jason, like on the one hand they're boring and they're not very interesting to watch, but you believe from the very first scene with the two of them together that like, oh, these guys are a couple and they are boring because they're a couple and they are teenagers who've like literally never had any real experience in their entire life other than being insanely like beautiful and rich and talented.
Yeah. They've never been tested. Yeah.
I completely believe that. So like on the one hand I'm like, who are these people? Like go away, like you're boring. But on the other hand, like that's actually like a pretty solid success for them, I think, as actors and as what the show is.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's like what you can kind of see, like I can kind of see what would happen if Tim Riggins had been paralyzed, or what would happen if Matt Saracen had been paralyzed, or like it just would be a totally different, they would react totally differently than the way that Jason Street ends up like dealing with it, which isn't hopefully saying too much, but it's just like having seen it.
And we'll talk more. I think episode 3, which is the last episode I've seen, is really kind of all about Jason and his attitude towards his recovery and sort of what the realistic options are for him. Because we don't see a lot of that in this episode. We'll see more of it in episode 2 and a lot more in 3. So,
Person.
Smash. The next person on my list is Smash, who's my favorite. After Matt Saracen, who's more like Matt Saracen is more like my like fuzzy bunny, and like Smash is like fuck yeah, Smash. I want this to be this. Actually, when I first was watching the pilot, I really did think that Smash was going to be the breakout character who was kind of the Peggy Olson or the like second fiddle to the coach. Or the
I definitely think that's really interesting because I think you were supposed to like him a lot, and I do. Like he's just like a big personality, like you know, he's like this obvious like opposite to Tim Riggins, and they play very similar positions. So like that's part of their rivalry, but like but I wouldn't have thought he would be like a lead on the show. Like I don't know. Maybe it's like.
But I wonder if you're saying that because you've seen the whole show, so you know sort of where the storylines go and sort of who.
But he's almost too. It's like he's almost kind of like. I guess I put him in the like Jason Street bucket where it's like he was like set up to be like amazing, you know, and it's like this show doesn't do that.
Oh.
Like, you know.
Oh, really?
No, I'm not telling you like he's not amazing. I'm just saying he's not like. I don't know. I guess
he doesn't. I agree with you. Like having seen 3 episodes, like.
I mean, obviously, like, it being 2015,
not
like, the bad Gaius Charles who plays him is not a star like Taylor Kitsch, so like it's obviously he didn't become a star.
But like, well, I don't know, because I feel like a lot of the actors on this show, at least starting from the pilot, having not seen the whole series, a lot of them, like, I mean, you've got Connie Britton who went on to like have her own whole other show, and I feel like the guy who plays Coach Taylor, whose name I'm blanking on right now, like he's been in a ton of other things. Yeah. Most of the teenagers, I think, with the exception of maybe Adrienne Palicki, and even there, I think I'm just prejudiced because I worked on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which she is now on, haven't done a whole lot, or at least haven't become like major household names. So it's hard to tell just by looking at who's famous. Like Minka Kelly, did she go on to do anything else? Not really.
Taylor Kitsch is definitely the most famous.
What?
Taylor Kitsch, who plays Riggins.
Oh, I don't recognize him at all.
He's in True Detective season 2.
Oh, is he on True Detective now? Okay, yeah, that's cool.
He's been in a bunch of stuff. I don't know. He's definitely the most famous. I guess in people who watch the show, like he's the one that everyone like. He's still in a lot of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but I hate that guy. I don't want him to be the Peggy Olson. I want him to go away.
Definitely.
Go to rehab and like Meg put on a bus and never come back.
Talking about like Matt Saracen is the Peggy.
Yeah, I guess Matt Saracen's the Peggy, but like I don't know. Like, have you ever seen? And this is sort of going back to pilots. If you've ever seen the West Wing pilot, it's really obvious the West Wing was pitched as a show kind of about Maura Kelly's character, who like she's a huge part in the pilot. And then she kind of has a supporting role on the show that gradually gets phased out over the first like 6 to 10 episodes, and then she's pretty much never seen again. Like, and it scares me because I'm in that position on this show. So I'm like, which character that I really like is getting
that's cool. That's what makes this podcast so very awesome because I'm not gonna say more about that. Ben, you like Smash? That's great. No, he's great. He's really good at the whole, like you said, like the whole media thing. Like he's great at that. So like, he's like made for that stuff.
Yeah. So my next person on my list is Adrienne Palicki's character, who I think I looked up. I think her name is Tyra. I don't know if the name Tyra is even said in this episode.
She's Tyra. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, there's not that much about her, right? So far. Really.
So far, yeah, no. My note right now is what is her deal. Also, I like made another note inside this note that I love Smash because they have some scenes together.
She's like.
She's kind of the not Lila, which is what I was wondering. And this is the bulk of my note about her is she meant to be like a white trashy kind of girl, or is it just that it was 2005 and that's what everyone was wearing? It's really hard. I don't have a sense of whether clothes were just really skanky 10 years ago and I'm forgetting about it.
Clothes were not. No, she was a white trashy kind of girl. Like,
okay.
She's supposed to be like she doesn't know better than that, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
she's not trying to be like a tramp. She's just like, this is what I know. Like, once you see her family, it's like, you know.
I haven't seen her family yet, but one thing I got definitely from the pilot is it's really obvious that like she is attracted to the whole media limelight that's going on in the town or on the football team. And this is more of a next episode thing. I guess we'll talk about it more then. But like I'm like already getting the sense that she's wondering if she like betted on the right horse.
Mm.
In terms of like she definitely seems to see her role as like her job is to be like sexual and cater to men and like get like sort of achieve through her connection to men, and she's like wondering whether Riggins was really the right choice for that because
I don't really. I mean, I definitely think that she doesn't see her value beyond her sexuality at all. But I don't think that she sees.
because there's a lot of scenes where she's like looking over and she's noticing like how much attention Ash and Mason are getting and trying to get in that and trying to like stand close to those guys or like get interviewed because she knows those guys or like sit next to those or like there's a scene again in like the Peach Pit kind of place where she's sitting with Riggins at a table but like she's almost talking to the journalists and to the guys getting interviewed by the journalists and not to Riggins at all. And then there's another scene which I have notes about later about the whole. I have like big question marks around the car dealership thing entirely, but the car dealership thing too. It's like she's just sort of standing around trying to look hot and stand next to the guy most likely to get interviewed.
Right, but you think because she thinks that's an investment in her future, like she's just doing what she feels like she should be.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know whether she's like trying to get out of the shitty town, or whether it's just like I'm a pretty girl and everyone's just told me my whole life that that's what I have. So I need to just like do what pretty girls do. I don't know. This episode really doesn't. I think because there's so little of her, it's hard to tell what her
deal. Not a lot about her yet. She's a pretty girl, but she's way smarter than. She's got way more, you know, than that going. And she doesn't really know how to balance it because she really doesn't know how to do what she needs to do to like get out of the bubble that she's in, you know. So
with the what that she's in,
like her bubble, like she's in the pretty girl. Way too smart for that.
I heard like Bumble or I don't know. I misheard you and it was like.
I know I'm a little congested. Dan's allergy attack today, so I'm a little congested. But it's like kind of it's chilling out now, which is good. So that's Tyra.
So I think the last character that I really have in my like, what do you think of this person? Is
any Taylor family at all?
Now we're heading because there's one thing that interested me about this pilot is that it's Coach Taylor's show. Like he's the central character in the show. He's the like reason the show is for being. It's like we're following this coach as he coaches these kids. We really don't see Taylor at all for like the first 20 minutes of the pilot. It's all about the kids and their various life situations and like their dynamics and the media interviewing them. And we don't really see Coach Taylor. And then kind of mid-episode, we find Coach Taylor and like see sort of some of the pressures on him. What do you think about, I mean, I don't have any real opinion on Coach Taylor actually. Like he seems cool. I'm with him. I'm invested. I want to see where this is going to go. But I don't have opinions about him in the way that I have opinions about like Riggins or Smash or Lila or any of those people. What do you, having seen the whole show, I mean, I assume you're probably better invested in Taylor.
I mean, do you want me to talk about what I think about him in the whole show or like what
in general, like what's your take, like seeing him in the pilot, you know, like what do you think about him? Like what do you think?
Get a sense in the pilot of their marriage, which I think is also like, it's like their marriage is like another character on the show. Like it's such a like their interaction, like the way they deal with things, such a big part of the show that it's even like outside of the two of them. It's like the two of them together. You know, it's like there's like Tammy, there's Coach Taylor, and then there's like the Taylor marriage.
Tammy is his wife.
Yes. Yeah. The Taylor marriage is like a bigger character than even both of them. It's like kind of one of the central characters of the show, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like a lot of the way that we see him, we either see him in his role as coach, or we see him in his role like with his wife in this like marriage stuff.
Yeah, because that's who he is. He's that he's like I don't know. I feel like I rely too much on being like he's that guy, but that's what I mean. He's like that guy. He's like this.
Well,
He's
that's why I don't have a great
like a
sense of him yet.
What? You get a sense of in the pilot. You get a sense of like sort of like their dynamic. Like she's doing this. This is like she's like along his ride right now, but she's kind of got a lot more going on emotionally than being like a coach's wife.
Well, there's a whole like his and her closets. Woo!
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a big suburbs thing, I don't know.
I just thought it was funny that like she has these little catchphrases and these like on the one hand she like is so like she seems like kind of an outsider to like the small town culture. I don't know if she's from there. I don't know how well she knows any of these characters. They just moved back there from another.
It's so confusing, and it's confusing the entire time to me. It's like they're from Texas, but they're not really. But they moved, but they're Texas. But
well,
no, I don't know. It's just like I don't feel like they're never very good about like what happened to them
in the past. Yeah, no, I'm only 3 episodes in, so they haven't really established the backstory a lot yet. But like,
they never really do. I don't think. Maybe they do. I don't know.
But like one thing that I get about it, again, this goes back to like I grew up in a town like this. Like my family is like some of these families. Like my dad is from the town that I grew up in. My mom is not, but she's not from far from there. Like that's like she gets that world too. She's not like from Timbuktu or something. But when my parents got married and started a family, we were living in New Orleans, and then we later lived in Baton Rouge, and like kind of moved around a little bit when I was little, and then we ended up moving back to the town where I ended up growing up. That is my dad's hometown. Very similar to like the Coach Taylor situation. I mean, I wasn't a teenager at the time. I was like in first grade or something, but like so like there were previous relationships in play, despite the fact that my family moved there.
Yeah,
and that's the sense I get from this show too.
But they don't seem like they have friends at all. Like they have no friends in this town.
Yeah, well, I mean, in episode 2, so we'll talk about that in a little while, I guess. It's sort of established that like Taylor and Mr. Garrity go way back. Mr. Garrity is Lila's dad, by the way, who we don't see a whole lot of in this episode. They go way back. Tammy, it's really hard to say. She doesn't seem to know any of the women in the town like at all.
Yeah, which is part of why it's really confusing. Like what their deal is, because they were lived there before. Like Coach Taylor coached Jason Street and Pee Wee, but like Tammy Taylor doesn't know anybody. Like it doesn't make any. It just
I
take notes on that too. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
One thing that I do love, and I think that like inhabiting that like semi-outsider status helps them do on the show, or like in this episode, is exhibiting some of the weirdnesses of Southern life. And you're from Virginia, so maybe this stuff resonated with you too. I don't really know.
That's one of the things where it's like I feel like I thought about this when I was watching it because I thought that you would be like have way more depth in the whole Southern thing than I do. But one of the things that I really recognized was the whole like super fake like hi I don't like you, but we're gonna have a whole conversation.
Yeah. The whole conversation.
Yeah, with the blonde ladies, like that I recognize.
The daughter and the ladies from the town.
Yeah,
I've been in that conversation so many times in my life.
Yeah, like every time I go home. Now I actually like the people. I'm sure people from my high school will be listening to this podcast eventually if we put it on Facebook because now we're all friends. But like, I remember when I was in high school, or even when I would go home to visit, you'd have like these whole conversations with people like who you knew didn't really care or didn't like you, and you have this like whole bright, happy, cheerful conversation. That I recognized very much from as being a Southern thing that doesn't really happen in New York the same way.
I feel like the New York version of that conversation. Oh, so just to fill our many, many listeners in on our situation here, Sabrina is in New York right now. I am in Los Angeles. I used to live in New York where me and Sabrina were good friends for many years. So we're sort of bi-coastal in this podcast, and you can probably tell we're not physically in the same place when we record this. But anyway, I feel like the New York and to an extent LA version of that, like, oh, come to our book club, we love you, you're so adorable. Like that conversation, which is a stock conversation you have a lot if you have lived in the South or spent a lot of time there. I feel like the New York version of that is like, I read this piece in the New York Times last week, blah, 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 blah. Or in LA, it's like, I started taking Pilates, blah, 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 blah. Or like, I'm not eating gluten, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I do think that like the South is famous for having those kind of superficial conversational small talk things. But I think that like other parts of America totally do it too. It's just usually on different topics and with different like, don't forget over the top smiley.
Right. But, like, there's this whole thing about how, like, she has to go talk to people that, even the topics, it's like, I don't know, it's just, like, she obviously, like, there's nothing in common with these people, and you have to stop and have, like, a 15-minute conversation in the grocery store with people. Like, I don't think that happens. That doesn't happen in New York, because I have definitely, like, there are people who I'm like, full-on friends with who I run into the street, and they're like, so, good to see you, and, like, you can tell they're, like, they're, like, sweaty today or something, and they don't want to talk to you.
But okay.
But this happened to me, like, last week. Like, I don't really know what was going on with this guy, but, like, some friends of mine in the neighborhood, like, I ran into the guy, and, like, he was like, oh, hey, so I was having brunch with some friends, and I was like, oh, okay. And, like, he wouldn't make eye contact, and it was like, I don't know, this is weird. But, like, yeah.
But I think he was running into people. But, like, so there's...
And then I'll be, like, invited to something out with them, and be like, it won't be a problem. Like, it was just, you just didn't feel like talking.
But here's what I'm going with this. So the next sort of scene, after we meet all the characters, and we establish some of the, like, dynamics within the social groups of the town, we go to this huge party at a car dealership that's owned by Mr. Garrity, and I do not for the life of me understand why they're there, what the occasion is, why the football team are all present and like in sort of an official media capacity and being interviewed by the media at this car dealership. I don't understand. There are numerous other characters that I don't understand why they would be there, like Adrian Palicki's character. I don't
it's hard to understand.
Lila would be there because it's her dad's car dealership, and like the Taylors would be there because they were there because their dad was there and they were there as a family. But like that scene that's like the weakest. That scene is the weakest element of the pilot for me because they're like in this place where there's no context at all. Just to have an excuse for them to talk to each other.
Almost every 1 hour drama has a party scene. Has party scenes in almost every episode. So, like, for the most part, that's why that's there. So it gets all the characters together. Like, if you think about it, like, the OC and Gossip Girl, like, all have a big party.
Oh, my God. So I recently guested on someone else's podcast about the OC, and I felt like the whole episode I watched with them, and I'd never seen the show and haven't seen any more of it since. I'm not a big fan. The whole show was just, like, random parties thrown for no purpose.
That whole show is, like, the beginning of the show is like there's this party, and then the whole time there's all these conflicts, and the conflicts on the head of the party. And I am actually a big fan of the OC, but like it's just a way to get like a huge ensemble cast together. I would think that was like, but yeah. So that's what the point of that car dealership.
I think it's really lazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of shows that I really love do not ever do that. Or if they do it, it's like I know like Girls in the first season has this one episode that takes place at a party.
Girls doesn't have like not like this show or like Parenthood or Gilmore Girls. Like Girls has like 6 people maybe. Tops.
Yeah, but like okay, Breaking Bad. Pretty much never on Breaking Bad is there like a big party and all the characters have to go interact with each other. Although that would be so interesting because the characters don't fit together at all in a party context. Like that's the show that should have done that.
Yeah, see, I mean, and you know, Mad Men, they would do it every so often. They would have a party and it'd be really awkward because that's what those people are like. You know,
it would be like one per season. They would have a party episode.
Right, but it's a different show. But this is the kind of show where it's like they get people together a lot. I guess I don't know.
It just seems like a long scene that took a lot of real estate in the pilot and like didn't really have any purpose for
me. Also, like I think like shows like the OC are like a different thing because they're more soapy and like they're kind of like those shows are like made to have the parties because it's like they're all really rich and like of course they have all these parties. You know, it's like whereas like this show, it's like they're obviously not OC people.
This is not the OC at all.
Yeah, but it's supposed. I think that just car dealership is just like a setup. Everybody, set up everybody for the big game.
Yeah, maybe some kind of like pre-game mixer or something. I don't know. I don't really get it.
Sponsor. Garrity's a big sponsor. It's his dealership. Like, where else would they have a party? It's like a small town. So like, so
yeah.
The thing about Tyra is interesting. It's like it's not really clear why she's anywhere at the beginning. Like, she's not really Regan's girlfriend. She's not really a rally girl. Like, she's not really into that kind of stuff. It's just she's kind of there.
This is a note that I wrote actually for the next episode, but I'll just bring it up now since you mentioned them. What the hell are rally girls?
No one ever knows. I was actually watching like AV Club recaps. They're basically like prostitutes. I don't know.
Like, I don't have like I kind of remember like with cheerleaders, we had like the flag girls who were like in the band and had nothing to do whatsoever with the football team. I don't know what rally girls are. We didn't have that. But yeah, later we'll talk more about this in the next episode of our podcast. They are basically like prostitutes.
Yeah, basically. Like I don't know. I was reading AV Club recaps and they were basically like, "What are rally girls?" And I assume they're prostitutes. Like, that was like as far as they got, and that was like their job to talk about the show. So, but I think she's like technically a rally girl. I don't know. Like, it's not clear like what her connection is to the team. Except they wanted her to be in these episodes, so they were like, "Here, she's here.
Just come be at this thing." Yeah. This is a third episode thing, so we'll talk about it more there. And it's kind of a spoiler, but like we later see that whoever Riggins' rally girl is not.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not Tyra. Tyra's not a rally girl. She's just kind of, but like I don't know what she's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even watching it again, for this, I was like, why is Tyra anywhere? Like, she's just kind of.
I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what her deal was and why she was anywhere and what her connection to any of this was. Kind of in the same way that I thought about Landry, because I hate Landry and I love Tyra.
But it's like, yeah, it's like high school. It's like, I don't know. Like, I guess like the whole like serious relationship thing to me was weird enough in high school. Like, I was just like, of course she's gonna like hang out with Riggins and also flirt with Smash. She's like 16. What's she gonna? What? This makes total sense to me. You know?
No, I mean, like, nothing is so completely. The only thing I thought was completely incomprehensible, but again, the whole thing was incomprehensible, is why she was at the car dealership. But why were any of them at the car dealership? I don't know. It
was like a booster party, right? But like, the thing about Tyra, it's like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like if you're a beautiful girl in high school, like you're just gonna be invited to everything. Like.
That's true.
So like that's just how that is.
So that's pretty much it for like character. Oh, one thing I have to say about characters, and maybe you have thoughts about this too. Coach Taylor's daughter, whose name I do not know, that character is me. Like that, like of any character on the show, the character that I most identify with in terms of not like whether I like them as a character or like an interesting character, but just like personal identification. Oh my God, it's like that was exactly my role in high school. Like if this show was about my own small town high school life, like that's who I was. I was the nerdy girl who hated football players.
Wasn't that she's not she's that nerdy?
Well, like, every time they show her, at least in the pilot, she's reading.
Yeah, I guess is that weird in like a small town to be reading?
Yeah, that's really weird in a small town.
Yeah, because the show's kind of on the cusp of like the whole like everybody's on the computer all the time kind of time period. So.
Yeah, but like the fact that she's reading Moby Dick and like really enjoying it and like has symbolic thoughts about it, most people who aren't extremely nerdy and like small town rural life are not. That's not what they're.
Right. I guess that's interesting because like I guess I thought that was just like a standard person thing. Like I don't know. Like when I was in high school, it's like everybody was like, yeah, that's just like totally like Moby Dick, and you're like, yeah, you're like a weird high schooler. It's interesting because I've been watching a lot of Parenthood. Like this weekend, I just pretty much spent most of it watching Parenthood. Which is by the same creator as Friday Night Lights. So there's a lot of like.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah, there's actually like a lot of actor crossover, and there's like weird little in jokes that they'll talk about watching Friday Night Lights on Parenthood. But like, it's a totally different show because it takes place in Berkeley, and like everybody's upper middle class, and like I identify with
And
all
yeah, it's the kind of stuff where they have a big party, and their entry to conversation is, oh, I heard this NPR thing recently, or like, oh,
yeah,
did you
that
read this
would
thing in
be
the
totally normal on
or,
Parenthood. Yeah, but like it's kind of interesting because I was thinking about it because it's like lots of like really high stakes, crazy stuff happens on Parenthood, but it's like it somehow feels like it's like even the way they deal with it is just like it doesn't seem like the way that it would be on Friday Night Lights, like just because of the background these people have and like the money involved and like it just like I was just thinking about it. It's like, you know, it's like it's kind of like more the way that I would understand those situations. Like even if I had like a very, which I have lately, very high stakes situations in my life, it's like I would deal with them more in a Parenthood way and understand them more in a Parenthood way than a Friday Night Lights way, where it's like kind of everything is like just higher stakes because there's just I don't know, like there's less money involved, there's like less resources. I don't know, it's like Berkeley, now it's not Texas. Like it's just it's I don't know. I guess it's like I've been comparing them a lot because I knew we were doing this, and also it's the same creator, and there are some consistencies and like in sort of like the way that people interact with each other and sort of like the kind of relationships they show, which is interesting because you have a lot of like really deep relationships happening in Berkeley, California, which I don't know how realistic that is, but like it's kind of it's very I don't know, it's very similar, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, wow, that makes me want to watch Parenthood. We'll have to start that podcast after we're finished with this.
Well, it's funny because I've been watching it partially because, like, I have this, I don't know, like, I kind of started watching it and being like, having this feeling like I wanted to just be like hanging out with them, like hang out with the Braverman.
I think that's every good TV show. Like what really makes it great and what really makes people want to watch it is that yeah, they want to be friends with the characters. They want to like be these are people that you want in your living room, like it back in the day once a week. Now for like 40 hours in succession. Like yeah,
Right. Right, but I think that on Friday Night Lights, that there's like people that you look up to and people that you feel bad for and people that you like, you know, there's just like these like big sort of like black and white shifts in people and like again, it's like everything feels very much more high stakes. Whereas Parenthood, it's kind of like I just kind of like, you know, like I have these like family things happening, and I'm just kind of like I wish I just like had family like this. Like I just wish we could do this, what they do on Parenthood. Like I wish I could be like that, you know. So I'm watching it a lot just to be like I'm just gonna pretend like this is like what's happening. You know, like, and I think that's kind of part of the point of the show, honestly. Like, I don't know. It's like they keep talking about like, you know, like nobody has a family like this. Like, you're lucky to be a Braverman. It's like kind of like that whole.
I find that really alienating, actually.
Really? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like an escapism, even though there's a lot of heavy stuff that happens on that show. It's just kind of like there's like escapism. It's like you could be a Braverman. Like maybe this could be you. I don't know.
I haven't seen it, so but okay, so now we've kind of talked about all the various other establishing things. Oh, I'll also say the mayor, I love her so much. The mayor might be my favorite, like, sort of minor character that we've met so far.
She seems very like Texas politician.
She's super Texasy. She reminds me a lot of Ann Richards, who's like one of my like political heroes. She also is like just like the whole scene where she's talking to Jason Street, and I think this totally like explains like who Jason is as a character and why he's boring. Like even the mayor thinks Jason Street's fucking boring. And there's a whole scene between the two of them where he's like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. And the mayor is like, you need to get out there and kick some ass. And it's just like, I love her. I kind of want there to be a TV show about like a Texas mayor. And I want her to
That's interesting. I mean, he's even like polite to the people when he's being like put on the stretcher. They're like, "You're doing a good job," and he's like, "Thank you, sir." Kind of like I don't know.
Like and I think probably a lot of it's all show because that's sort of what being Southern's about. But like, like he always knows the right answer.
Yeah.
Which both makes him seem boring, but then I kind of wonder when that cracks. Because when you become paralyzed, I think at a certain point you have to fucking drop the facade.
Right.
And we'll probably talk about that.
Yeah. I'll have to hold my thoughts on that one. I know a lot more about that. Yeah.
But yeah, so Yeah, so let's talk about the actual football part where they play football
They play
at
football.
the end of the episode. I, to be really honest with you, as someone who does not know really anything about football and doesn't really like football, I found most of the football scenes boring. But then something happens in the football segment that it makes it very unboring and creates like massive stakes that reverberate throughout the whole show.
That's pretty much how all the football episodes are. All the football sequences are in the whole show. Like it's kind of set up. It's kind of funny when people talk about it. Like it's like, oh, I don't like football because it's set up to be very easy to understand the football, and also the football is like very over dramatic compared to actual football. Like it's like every game ends in like a tiebreaker, and it's like Hail Mary pass, and it's like
Yeah, like they put a Hail Mary pass in the very first episode.
yeah,
That's,
they have
that's
yes, they have a lot of those and like 2 point conversions. We'll talk about later.
I was about to say, like, what? Oh, wait, I have a football question for you. We wanted to kind of have like a football segment. I don't know, maybe more. We'll evolve more on what our football segment is. But I have one real football question for you because somebody asks it. What is a blitz?
A blitz is like when somebody asked it in the episode, or
Yeah, somebody in the episode. I think it's like this weird MILF lady is flirting with Riggins, and she's like, she's like, I just love football, but I don't know what a blitz is, and like it just sounds sexual. What in a non-sexual way? Like I'm not flirting with you, Sabrina. What is it?
it's kind of. I mean, I don't know. It means like different things. Like I was kind of wondering that too because she'd asked that question, and then like Riggins was talking about. I mean, Jason Stewart was talking about being blitzed a
I
lot.
can't hear anything. I can't hear anything you're saying. So if you wouldn't mind repeating that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering about that too because it seemed like she asked that question. And it's like not something I usually hear a lot. And then he was talking about being blitzed a lot in the sort of halftime segment. But it's basically just sort of like I don't know, like he was just getting rushed a lot by like when he was trying to throw the ball. So like
So is a blitz like when you're rushing somebody who has possession of the ball?
I mean in that sense, in that particular sequence, yes. Like he wasn't getting time to throw the ball.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Still a little confused, but
I don't think I have like it's different for different things. It's basically just like yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
all right, sorry.
That particular
That's our what how does football work segment of the day. We don't know.
Yeah, I'll have better.
So they say clear eyes full hearts can't lose for the first time. Then they go play some football. Yeah, I find it not interesting.
They touch. Yeah, I mean it's not interesting football. Like it's just not. I don't know. Like
they just football around for a little while.
They football around. Yeah, I mean it's like in terms of like great football, like the show never has it. It doesn't. They're just kind of like I think on purpose. Like they don't. It's not a football show, you know.
Yeah, which is funny because it is a football show, but it's not. So
I mean,
one
people
thing
don't want to watch it because they don't like football. Like they just should get over themselves.
And this is how you know you're a girl who knows nothing about football watching a show about football. Is it just me, or was the other team like obvious Ralph Lauren product placement?
What do you
I don't know if you're familiar with this brand that was very popular in the 90s and the early 2000s when the show was on, called Chaps. That was like a sub-brand of like Polo, owned by Ralph Lauren. It was kind of like it was like if Ralph Lauren's all about like preppy American lifestyle, like Chaps was like the version of that you would get at like Sears. Like
Chaps is a weird name for that team.
I know. I noticed that I was like, what's so our guys are the Dillon Panthers, which I think is an okay sports name. I would have gone. It's not on the nose, which is nice. I would have gone with the Warriors or like something a little bit more evocative, but Panthers is fine. Dillon's named for a town, that's fine. The other team they're playing in this game is called the Chaps, which is a super weird name that you would not normally have for a sports team. Also, they're in the colors of the brand Ralph Lauren Chaps, which is why I was like, this is product placement.
That would be, I guess, but they didn't really talk about Ralph Lauren, and I guess they didn't think about it. I mean, I don't know. The Chaps is a weird name for a team. Yeah.
I am kind of joking. thing. Like I know that like that would be
a weird name for a team. It's true. Like it's a weird, especially Texas team. It's weird. Yeah, I know.
I think they may have picked it because it sounds cowboyish. Like
kind of the name that like an art school would pick for their football team. That they're like, we're the Chaps. We're just the football chaps.
Football chaps.
Yeah. One of the things I always notice is like.
I think of it like cowboy chaps, and you're thinking of it like good day, governor.
But that's also weird. I don't know. It's weird. But
it's an odd name.
I noticed about the Chaps was that they took a knee when Jason Street got hurt, which I remember from sports as a child. And I also thought the cheerleaders, if it were like a real high school game, would have also taken a knee. But they were just kind of
I have a feeling
everybody chills out when somebody gets hurt. Everybody.
I have a feeling the reason that only the football players took a knee in that scene was because, like, probably they didn't have the background. So, like, so I work in television production, and basically probably what happened is that was a huge scene that took all night to shoot and had all these extras and all these characters and all these little moments that they had to film, all of which took a really long time. They might have done it over multiple nights. And most likely they sent those extras home. And then when they did the take a knee scene, they didn't have them because they had already sent the cheerleaders home.
But the cheerleaders were like, they showed the cheerleaders like standing up, like they showed like, standing around.
They did? Oh,
yeah.
Then.
Like everybody just would have like, if it was like a real high school game and somebody got hurt, especially that hurt, everybody just would have like, it's like instinctive, like you just go down, like you just you just like stop, like it's like, to me it's like one of the most like, I don't know, like that plus the orange slices is like my strongest memory of like childhood sports. Like
it's interesting. I have a thing, and we'll talk about this. It's something that happens in the next episode, but somebody uses a certain kind of slang that to me felt really false. So it's interesting that we both have these occasional moments of things just not being right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. To me, like the whole like when I was watching it today, I was like this cheerleader thing. Like they would be like, they wouldn't be like standing around. They would be like same as football players. Like, everybody would be like quiet. It's not moving. That's like the respectful thing to do. I don't always have people like sprain an ankle playing soccer.
Well, yeah, if someone's like getting taken off the field in a stretcher, yeah. So anyway, so just to sum up what happens for our many, many listeners who've never seen the show before and are only experiencing it through us, which is real and a thing that's definitely happening. What happens after this football game is that Matt Saracen gets brought in after Jason Street gets hurt very, very badly. He kind of fucks up for a minute. Then he throws this amazing Hail Mary pass, and they win the game, and it's magic. And yay! The end of episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed. So, are we... Oh, you just froze.
Are you still there? Yeah, you froze for a second.
Yeah. Is it because this one's over and we have to go to the next one?
No. But the next one starts in half an hour. Oh well, it doesn't matter. We'll figure that out in a second. But we have a couple minutes to like wrap it up. I thought that them winning the game was good, and I think you have to have that in a pilot. But it kind of sets up a tough situation for the next episode, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes when we make our next episode.
Okay. Are we ending this one now? I
think we're wrapping up. Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything to say?
No. I think you got it all.
All right. So thanks for listening to our podcast. Definitely many of you listen to. And we will be back next week with episode 2. Yay! That we're actually going to film right now. Bye.
Okay.
Cool.